Back now on The Pulse, looking at all things people, power, and politics. Here to talk about the divide in the Republican Party and the Democratic Party. What's next? Who's the leader? What are the challenges that they face as they head towards the next set of elections? Troy Mayor Ethan Baker, political commentator and the mayor of Troy. Good to see you. Thanks for joining us here.
Good to see you, Roop.
I want to ask you, I want to begin with the Epstein files. And I know there's half the crowd out there who's going, would you enough with the Epstein files? Listen, after 30 days, it'll be released. We'll know what was in it, and we won't be talking about it perhaps long after that. But what comes out of this may not just be damaging for some people in the Republican Party. It could be very damaging to people in the Democratic Party. Talk about the effect of this.
I think if there is a complete release, it's going to be damaging to both sides, to all people involved. And that's one of the issues. And, you know, I think over the course of years at this point, people have said, oh, release the files, and they're looking to hurt the other party primarily. And I'm worried that that's just going to backfire on everybody. Or I'm more worried, I guess, that the conspiracy theorists out there are going to say, well, that wasn't the real release, and, you know, what now? What are you really hiding from us? And so it'll continue on.
Well, that's how conspiracy theories go, because people are never, who have a theory aren't satisfied with any form of truth that comes out because they want it. But the Epstein files, essentially, it's a political weapon. But sadly, there are real victims behind this. And I think that's often lost.
It is, and it's what Epstein has done is atrocious. What Ghislaine Maxwell has done is atrocious, and everyone can come together on that. And I think that's why you see everyone, one of the reasons everyone voted to release, except for the one member of Congress. But it is lost on the victims. And so my always concern about this was, how is this going to affect the victims? Are the victims going to be okay with a lot of this information being released? Because the risk also is some of these victims, you know, their names will be redacted. It's not going to be specific to who they are, but it could hurt them as well. So I've always had concerns about the politicians using this as a political football and a political sword, and the effect that could have on the victims and their families.
Let's talk a little bit about Saudi Arabia. You know, in the city of Troy, you guys do a lot of business in that city with international interests all over the place. This visit yesterday, we're talking about billions of dollars being given to the U.S. in exchange for military assets, essentially. What does this do for the country? What's the story that people aren't talking about when it comes to that visit?
I think it's an interesting strategic move for Trump. The idea that, you know, we've always had strong relations with Saudi Arabia as a country. There's a lot of people who have called that into question over the years because of 9/11 for various different reasons related to human rights. I think this is a president that likes to focus on deal making and likes to talk big numbers. And the fact that he can say, you know, I've got Mohammed bin Salman to potentially invest $1 trillion into the United States, that goes to his message of him being a strong economic president, and it could do a lot of good things for us. We do have a lot of global money that gets invested in our country, especially in Troy. We've got global businesses, and I think that is a good thing overall, and it's certainly at a time when we worry about our economy on the local level. To see that investment, or that potential for investment, can only bring good things.
People also worry, though, about some of the implications of doing business with countries that often have had some dubious, you know, human rights records. And in this case, we have that. We also have the case of Jamal Khashoggi, the Washington Post reporter who was killed and dismembered. And some people are asking questions as to what was the involvement of the government in this, right?
Yeah. Right, and presidents come out and said, oh, the intelligence on that was bad, and we're moving forward and looking forward, and, you know, that's a questionable tactic, no question. Mr. Khashoggi's widow was speaking out yesterday about this and is very disturbed by it, and I completely understand where she's coming from. But even some, you know, the Republicans now, and even some Democrats are saying, let's move forward and let's keep that strategic ally. Let's look at the economic benefits that can come with Saudi Arabia, and, you know, that's where we're at.
Let's talk about where the Democrats are at right now as they move forward. I was talking to a couple U.S. Congress people the other day, and they were saying, look, let's get through the midterms and we'll figure out who the leader of this party really is. It certainly is not Chuck Schumer, per se, in terms of the future. Perhaps he could be considered a leader now. Are we looking at Gavin Newsom? Who should and who do you believe will emerge as the Democratic leader?
That's a great question. And, you know, I don't really know. You know, as a Republican, I think we should be somebody who's more in the middle and who's going to try to bring people together. I don't think that's such a bad thing.
More than Gavin Newsom?
I don't think Gavin's somewhere in the middle that brings people together. You know, I've watched Gavin Newsom for a long time. I'm a former Californian myself, so you know, I think he's a very talented politician. I think he has stepped in it over the years on a number of things, and that'll come back out. He's also having his moment right now. He certainly is, and so I give him a lot of credit for kind of rehabilitating himself and making himself a national figure. But I don't think he's the one necessarily that's going to move that Democratic Party forward. I'm not sure who is. I'm not sure the Democrats know who is. You know, I think it's going to have to organically come out of this next year. What happens with the next funding, set of funding bills for the federal government, and certainly the midterm elections.
But if you say that Democrats have to move more to the center, do Republicans and those candidates have to move more to the center as well?
Well, you're looking at a nonpartisan mayor in a city, right? So my job is to kind of govern from that center 80% of really where people are at. So yeah, I can't say the Democrats should do it, but the Republicans shouldn't. But the idea is getting people to come together. You can have your principles, you can be conservative, you can be liberal, but it doesn't mean you have to alienate the other half of the country. There is a lot of common ground that exists between the parties and the people especially. So yes, focus on bringing people together in that middle 70 to 80%.
Take the Epstein files out of this and look at Marjorie Taylor Greene and her influence on the MAGA movement. What does this do moving forward?
I don't know yet. I don't know how influential she really is beyond the moment she's having. She certainly had a kind of a 180 on some things, and good for her. I was talking to a friend the other day, and I said, I don't know if this is really who Marjorie Taylor Greene is, or if the other version was.
But isn't she moving more center?
Whatever's working, she seems to. I mean, she's on The View having a good time with the women of The View. That says something about where we're at and what she's doing successfully.
Moving more center.
Maybe being more of a truth teller, and maybe it's not moving more center, but speaking out against President Trump. That seems to be the more. I don't think it's a move towards the center. I think it's a move against President Trump.
All right, Mayor Ethan Baker, always good to see you. Thanks for your perspective here on The Pulse.
You too, Roop.
Appreciate your time. Up next, the president's take his war with the press to a new level, insulting a female reporter, calling her Miss Piggy. We're talking about that from a messaging standpoint with PR guru Matt Friedman. This on The Pulse.